Hey everyone, it's Eric Huey, host of the Gen Y Leaders Podcast, where we prepare millennials to be leaders of the future. Now, if you're familiar with the podcast, you know that it's usually interview-based, and we tell the success stories of high-performing millennials. Each time, I tend to ask a couple of the same questions. Not all the same questions, because that would be a boring podcast, but there are a key 1 to 2 questions that I ask every guest on the show. And one of those is, what books or resources have made a positive impact in your life or in your business? Books are such incredible resources because they take years upon years of people's successes and failures and condense them into a few hours of reading. The mission of the book breakdown is to take those few hours of reading and then further condense them into 15 minutes or less of listening. This is the Gen Y Leader Podcast Book Breakdown.
What's up, Gen Y Leaders? My name is Jonathan Haile. I am the social media manager for the Gen Y Leaders Podcast. Today I wanted to talk to you about a book I found called The Charisma Myth: How Anyone Can Master the Art and Science of Personal Magnetism. It was written by Olivia Fox Cabane, who is a lecturer, researcher, and consultant for Fortune 500 companies. Essentially, she teaches business leaders how to be more charismatic. Charisma is kind of this crazy skill that a lot of people are born with and a lot of people have to develop. It's the ability to be compelling to other people, to be attractive to other people, and to inspire other people to act. But it's also, I think, one of the fascinating things about the book is it's also the ability to make other people feel valued or feel important. One of the reasons I picked it up, I was just kind of in Barnes and Noble looking around, and I found it, and I thought it was a fascinating resource, just taking all of her business practices and distilling it down to this book. But I'm always someone who wants to improve, be it professionally or personally, and I thought this was a great resource for doing that. So here are kind of my key takeaways from the Charisma Myth. So charisma has 3 main features. The first is presence, and that is essentially not allowing your mind to wander when you're in a situation. Being focused on where you are, who you're talking to, maintaining eye contact, listening intently, because the second that you show that you're not interested, that's going to trigger a response in that other person that shows, this person's not with me, they're not paying attention. The second is power, and that's your ability to affect the world around you. That could honestly be wearing, nice clothing or showing off an expensive gadget. It could be showing your intelligence or your expertise on a given subject, or it could just be you're a large person. You're a physically imposing person. I think that your size, your stature has a lot of bearing on how charismatic you can be. The third is warmth, and that's all about body language. That is showcasing that you have the best intentions for the person around you, or for the people around you. And that manifests itself in positive body language, good posture, having a strong handshake, and any negative thought that you have manifests itself in poor body language, whether you like it or not. So again, if you showcase that you have poor body language, you're going to lose that person. So now that you know the 3 different components of charisma, you can move on to the 4 different styles of charisma. The first is focus charisma, and that means that you are listening intently, you are focused on the person in front of you or the group that you're in, and you're making that group, those people, feel heard and understood. The second style is visionary charisma. So if you think someone like Steve Jobs, he had a bold vision, he was very convicted to that bold vision, and he inspired others, whether it be people who worked for Apple or other tech companies, to move forward. So he's absolutely kind of a poster boy for visionary charisma. Authoritative charisma is the third style, and I tend to think of people in the military or people who are coaches. They need people to obey them. They need people to follow them. So they have to show They have to show that through power, through maybe a little bit of tough love. And then the fourth is kindness charisma. So that, again, is going to require warmth. And that's going to mean you are showing that body language, that positive body language. You are showing the other person that you care about them, and you're building an emotional connection to them. One of the coolest things about these different styles is that you can master one of them and then move on to another one of them. Of course, this takes time and practice and effort, but in different situations, you can use a different style of charisma to connect to the audience however they need it. I tend to think of someone like Greg Popovich, the coach of the San Antonio Spurs, as someone who has mastered different styles of charisma. You see him as an authoritative figure who's won a number of NBA championships, but then you see him in different settings where he's very caring about former players like Tim Duncan or Kobe Bryant, and he shows that sort of kindness, charisma, or just a level of caring that you don't see from an authoritative type. Once you understand those 4 different styles of charisma, I think that you can appreciate the smaller pieces of information that Fox Cabane lays out in her book. One thing that really stuck with me was that charismatic people make others impress them, and those people are grateful for that experience. Kind of in tandem with that, charismatic people make others feel like they're the most important people in the room. So I think those kind of together make it apparent that charismatic people have the ability to make others feel better about themselves. And I think that's an enviable skill, that is a very invaluable skill, and that's something that we could all strive towards. One of the things Fox Cabane does really well, I think, is she helps you understand what could limit your potential to be charismatic. If you're a person, if you're a self-critic, you have some doubt, she gives you strategies to become more confident. If you're a person of small stature, she gives you strategies that allow you to become physically bigger in the moment that you need to be. If you're a person who is more introverted, and she kind of makes a strong case that extroverts are not the only charismatic people. So if you're more introverted, she gives you strategies that helps you understand how you can manage your time, or how you can sort of manage yourself in bigger social settings. So I think one of the takeaways from the book for me is that it's very therapeutic in that sense. It goes beyond what limits your charisma, and really kind of helps you identify what limits you being the best version of you. I think these strategies are interesting because a lot of people could see them as manipulative, and that is something that was raised in a keynote speech with Fox Cabane that I found on YouTube. And she kind of laughed it off and said, "Oh, absolutely, they're manipulative." But one of my takeaways from the book was, at least to me, the more you practice these strategies, the more comfortable you become, the more charismatic you become. The manipulation starts to go away, and you are more intent in your listening, in your eye contact, and you do value the person in front of you. You value the group in front of you. So it's not just kind of manipulating others to like you. I think it's really coming to a common understanding and a common sense of goodwill towards the other person. Finally, I think Fox Cabane did a really good job of sort of dispelling my misconception of what charisma was. I thought it was just something that, people who can go into a room and command a room and make everybody laugh and make everybody feel great about themselves. I thought that that's kind of all it was, but I think going back to that point about being introverted, there are people who are quieter, more reserved, but are very charismatic. So if you're under the impression that I'm not a charismatic person, but you are able to convey warmth, then you are absolutely a charismatic person. If if you make someone, ultimately to me, if you make someone feel better about themselves at the end of the day, I think that's the mark of a charismatic person. I really enjoyed my time with the book. I think I was able to identify some of my own limitations and find ways to be more charismatic. There are exercises throughout each chapter that sort of help you practice, and at the end of the book in the appendices you can also find those exercises for sort of quick reference. It's definitely something that I think if you're looking for an opportunity to grow, if you're looking for ways to become a better presenter and better communicator, this is a book you should definitely check out. It is The Charisma Myth: How Anyone Can Master the Art of Science and Personal Magnetism by Olivia Fox Cabane. It's available on Amazon. It's available at Barnes & Noble, and you can find the audiobook on Scribd. Thanks for listening. Hope you'll check it out.